Hello, I would like to inform everyone about biofilms for my presentation, and this is for the class Bacterial Pathogenesis. And this presentation will give a brief overview of biofilms, its definition, kind of how they form and how it applies to the world, and also how we can prevent them. Okay, so for a general definition is that biofilms are a living film of protection for bacteria. So here I have a picture of a caveman because just like humans evolved to make a home to have shelter, so did bacteria basically. So these biofilms are protection and they do harvest more nutrients and they allow them to survive even in harsh conditions. So the formal definition is bacterial biofilms are a complex surface attached communities of bacteria that are held together by these matrices, and these matrices are composed of polysaccharides, secreted proteins, and extracellular DNAs. And about 40 to 80% of bacterial cells are able to produce biofilms, according to Frontiers in Microbiology. So these biofilms are a serious problem because it can harvest bad bacteria in a lot of different things, and we will go over it in a little more depth in a couple of minutes. But basically, the purpose of this presentation is to knowingly prevent. You have to prevent biofilms so we don't harvest that bad bacteria. So biofilm forms in 5 main phases, and it is a little complex process, but we will be very brief about it. So first is the reversible attachment phase, which are mainly hydrophobic interactions where bacteria non-specifically attaches to surfaces. Then the second step is the irreversible attachment phase, and this involves more specific interactions, which are the interaction between bacterial cells using their adhesins, such as fimbriae and LPS, to make the actual extracellular matrix. Oops. Then that brings us to the third step, is the production of the extracellular polymeric substances, or EPS, by these bacteria cells. Then the fourth step is the maturation phase, and this is where the bacterial cells will synthesize and release signaling molecules to sense the presence of each other, conducing the formation of microcolony and maturation of bacterial biofilms. Lastly is the dispersal and detachment phase, and this is basically where the bacterial cells can actually branch off from the community of the biofilm, and they can come back to an independent Platonic lifestyle, which means that this will allow them to reproduce even faster and with more protection. So, like we already talked about, there are risks of biofilms. And a big one is the one in healthcare. And for example, there is a bacteria called Staphylococcus epidermis, which is actually a normal pathogen for us. We always have it on us. But when it becomes a biofilm, it becomes incredibly dangerous. And this happens often in healthcare with our medical instruments. And this pathogen is called an accidental pathogen when it becomes a biofilm, because it's normally not pathogenic to humans. Another risk of the biofilms is in drinking water. We want to be careful that we don't have bacteria in our drinking water. and also food and the food industry. It's incredibly important to be very preventative of biofilms because that can harvest very bad bacteria if you had, say, biofilms on food preparation instruments. And another thing is the marine biofouling, which is basically, it interferes with marine transport, which can be very expensive, and this has to do with the production of algae and disruption of ecosystems. And also with tooth decay, you want to always brush your teeth to get rid of all the bacteria, the bad bacteria that could create a biofilm, which will make plaque, and we all know how hard it is to get rid of plaque. So there are benefits of biofilms, and some of the benefits are plant protection agents. So this means that it's more of a symbiosis where you have a good relationship between the bacteria and the plant. So it's more of a benefit-benefit situation. Also, this has been very popular in recent news because of oil spills, but biofilms can help to treat oil spills, and that is being extremely explored for bioremediations. And also with wastewater treatment, we want to be careful to have biofilms in our wastewater, but in wastewater treatment, they have come up with certain ways to use biofilms to basically separate the bad bacteria versus the good bacteria. Some of the methods that they use are coagulation fluctuation. Second is a membrane filtration. And then third is electrochemical treatment. And those all include biofilms. And also biofilms are also been known to prevent the control of corrosion. Okay. So we can disrupt this matrix of the biofilm using enzymes or phages. And this type of treatment is really being studied. For example, there are bacteriophage therapies against biofilms that are currently being explored, and some are listed in sources at the very end of this presentation. But in general, that all we want to do is to prevent the biofilms before they happen. So prevention is key. You want to do your dishes and brush your teeth to prevent gross biofilms that are very hard to get rid of, because otherwise we would have to not only get rid of the biofilm as well as sanitize and make sure that everything is killed. It is much easier to prevent the problem before it happens. And here are some peer-reviewed sources that I suggest everyone looks at. They're very interesting. And thank you for listening. Have a great day.